What's up guys, Justin here with the RenderingEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp and Lumion tutorial for you. So in this video, I was going to take another model from the 3D warehouse and take it over into Lumion and see what kind of rendering I could create with it in a short period of time. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. So I found this model because I was doing another tutorial on my other channel, and I just really liked the model. I really liked the model author and what he has in his collection, so I thought I'd take this and see what I could do with it inside of Lumion really quickly. So all I've done is I've taken this model file, which is the DADU in a wooded setting by Doug EOP. You can find that on the 3D warehouse, and I've just brought that in as is. And I thought we'd go ahead and take it into Lumion and see what we could do with it. And so for now, I'm just going to use Lumion LiveSync in order to take this over there. Probably the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to turn on a faster style, or maybe I'll just adjust this style. Whoops, that wasn't what I wanted. Maybe I'll just adjust this style with the profiles off so it's a little bit faster. That way flying around inside of SketchUp will be a little bit quicker. But we can go ahead for now and we can take this as is and send it over into Lumion. I'm already seeing some things that we're going to want to fix, but let's go ahead and start by just loading Lumion LiveSync, the extension inside of your model. And I will link to a video showing you how to get that. But I'm just going to click the play button, and the first thing it's going to ask me to do is save my model. And once we've saved this model, we're just going to click the button for LiveSync. Since Lumion's not running, it's going to ask if we want to start it, and we're going to say yes. And I do get this question sometimes. If you do not have Lumion 8.3 or newer, you probably will not be compatible with LiveSync. But I'm just going to go ahead and click yes. And when I click yes, what that's going to do is that's going to bring up Lumion. And the first thing we're going to do when this brings up Lumion is we're going to select a template file. So that's going to tell it what kind of background we want around this and that sort of thing. And I personally pretty much always pick the mountain range just because I like having some mountains in the background as opposed to just like a flat plane. You can select whichever one you want in this, but we'll go ahead and click on mountain range for right now. And what that's going to do is that's going to load our mountain range background, and it's going to load this model into our scene. And so the model kind of gets dropped a little bit of wherever. In this case, it got dropped over here, which is going to work just fine. And so when I go over here and look at this, you can see how this already looks pretty decent. There's obviously some things we need to fix, some things we need to adjust, but that shouldn't be too hard to do. Well, one thing to note, and it's not a problem in this one, because there's a thick plane at the bottom of it, some models, when you bring them in, you may need to move them up or down a little bit, just to get them up above the grass that's in here. In this case, we're not really super worried about that. We'll come in and paint out this grass in just a second. And so even the trees in this one actually look pretty good, which is kind of rare for a SketchUp model when that happens when you first bring that in. But what we want to do is we want to start making some changes in order to make this look a little bit more realistic. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to come in here into my landscape settings, and I want to paint out the grass that's showing up through this ground inside of Lumion. So I mean, we obviously don't need the Lumion grass showing up through here. So all we're going to do in order to get rid of that is we're just going to go into the paint function, and we're just going to paint a material in this area where the grass is. So we're just going to paint kind of the rock material in here all the way along this face. And you can see how that's really easy to do. You can adjust the brush speed and everything else, but you can see how basically what I'm doing is I'm just painting out that grass material. And if we were to hide our building, so if we were to take our building inside of SketchUp and take our building inside of Lumion and put it on a layer and turn it off, which actually let's go ahead and do that. So if we were to select our building, place that on this layer, which is already on this layer, and then turn that off, you can see how basically all we did is we just painted out a circle in here of material so that our grass isn't showing through. And you can go back and adjust that as much as you want. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix some of these materials, because if you come in here and look at some of these materials, what this is doing is this is bringing in SketchUp materials, and it's just kind of doing its best. But what we want is we want to use Lumion's better materials. So we're going to click on this materials tab. We're going to start swapping out all of these different materials in here for materials that are a little bit higher resolution. And what I like about this model is it seems like there's a pretty good separation already of the different materials. So that means that coming in here and adding these different materials is going to be really easy. So I'm going to start with this one right here. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do, because my computer's heating up a little bit, is I'm going to go into landscape in the grass, and I'm just going to turn the grass off for right now, because what this was trying to do is it's trying to render all of the grass in the background. We don't really need that for our preview. So now I'm going to go into materials, and I'm just going to start swapping these out. And so a lot of the time what you can do is you can just click on a material and then find something like an outdoor glass or something like that and use like a pure glass in here. You just want to swap these out for the better Lumion materials that are more realistic. So like the stone, for example, I would go find a different stone material. So there's a whole bunch of different materials in here that you could use. You have to be a little bit careful because some of these look a little bit like pavers as opposed to actual stone. So you just have to be careful that you get something that actually looks good in your rendering. Like the cobblestone obviously doesn't look super good on a wall. But like the stone wall material or something like that might look a little bit better. So you can see how maybe we'll pick something like this stone wall material for right now. So you can see I'm just swapping these out for materials that I like. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to replace some more materials, and then we'll come back in just a minute. Alright, and so once we're done kind of making the changes on this material, what we can do is we can click this check mark to save those changes. One thing I may have to go looking for, because I'm not sure there's anything in the Lumion library for this, is I probably am going to want to adjust out this fencing weathered for something else, but I couldn't find a fencing material. So the next thing I want to do is, like right now, these trees actually look pretty good. I'm actually like really impressed with how good these trees look, but we're still going to get a better look in here by taking those trees and replacing them with Lumion trees. And so what I want to do is I want to use the power of LiveSync in order to turn those off. So we don't need to delete those, but what we need to do is we need to go back into our SketchUp model, and we need to find all of those trees and maybe put them on a layer. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select all of those trees. So I'm just going to drag a box across these right here, and I may just take all of them and maybe put them in a group, and then I'm just going to add a layer for trees in SketchUp. I'm going to put this group of trees on that layer, and I'm going to turn that layer off. So, and this tree should be in that group, and so I'm just going to use the outliner to drag that into that group. So I'm going to turn that layer back on for a second. I'm just going to drag that into this group, and I have tutorials on the outliner on my other channel if that's something you're interested in. That's a really great way to keep your model organized. But we're just going to come in here, we're going to turn these trees off. We're going to do the same thing for these bushes, though again I am really impressed with how good those bushes looked as well. These are actually really great plants, but pretty much all the time Lumion stuff is going to be better. So we're just going to take all these bushes, put them in a group, make a layer called bushes, we'll put them on the bushes layer, and we'll turn those off as well. And so one of the nice things about this, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off camera synchronization. I don't really want that inside of Lumion. But one of the nice things about this is now if I go over into Lumion, you can see how all of those have been turned off. And the great thing about that is those are still in my SketchUp model. So if I want to show my SketchUp model off, I can definitely do that. But we don't necessarily want them to show up in Lumion. So with LiveSync enabled, it's really easy to just turn or just flip all of those off until we need them in SketchUp. And so now we're going to get out of material mode, and we're going to go over and we're going to go into object mode, and we're going to start placing some trees. And so because this is more of like a residential setting, the trees in this case are probably going to be a little bit more uniform, which actually works pretty well for us. We're just going to use the mass placement tool in order to drop a few trees in. So we're just going to click on objects, nature, and then we're going to click on the place button. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on mass placement because I'm going to place multiple different trees in here. And I'm just going to come in here and find some trees that I like. So you can see how the nice thing about these is with these sycamores, you can see like what size they are. Because like for example, probably over here I want some smaller trees, but over here I'm going to want some bigger trees. And so I'm just going to use the mass place tool in order to drop a few of these trees in here. So you can adjust the number of trees that go in here. You can randomize the direction of the trees if you want to. You could even, if you really wanted to, you could add another kind of tree. So maybe if you wanted a short tree in here as well, you could click on this and then click add, and that'll just kind of randomize what trees this places in here. So you can see how just by dragging this is randomizing the number of trees and the kind of trees that it drops in here. And for this one, I kind of like this. Maybe I would like a little bit more uniformity, but that's okay. So we're just going to go ahead and click the confirm button. Then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're just going to drop some random trees in and click OK. And now over here, I want to bring in some bigger trees. So maybe like these larger American sycamores or something like that. So you can see how those are a little bit bigger, and I want to drop a few of those in here. And again, they're going to be kind of uniform. So we're just going to use mass placement. We're going to single click, and then we'll single click over here in order to give this a line. And I'm going to get rid of the smaller trees in here and just use these bigger ones. So you can see how this is kind of randomizing the direction. I can adjust the number of trees in here with this slider. I don't really want the offset to be randomized. We'll do a little bit of that back here. So we're just going to kind of leave this as is. And then we may do the same thing over here. So we're just going to use mass place to place some more trees. I'm actually going to call that good. So what that gives us is this great view with the trees in here. And we may come in here and spread some other objects in a minute. But what I want to do now is back here, I want to create some bigger trees that are just kind of random to fill in the background. Because right now this is just kind of a random open space. So for this one, we're going to confirm that last one. We're just going to do the same thing where we're going to draw a line across here with the mass place tool. But in this case, we want to randomize our spacing a little bit. And we also want to randomize our offset. And you can see how when we randomize our offset, the outline of that shape is showing up, showing us exactly where that area is that those trees are going to get placed. And I'm going to drop in a couple different sizes and types of trees in here just to get us a little bit more randomness. And then I'm also going to increase the number of items. So you can see how I can add and place more trees in here just by dragging that slider. And if you don't like where it places these, you can just drag this up and then down again, and it'll just re-randomize where those trees are. And I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. And so the other thing you might think about is putting some things in these beds, because they look a little bit empty. So what we might think about doing is we might think about just dropping some like plants or some bushes in there. So maybe some of these green bushes, or if we have some more realistic bushes in here, maybe we'll use that. Just something to kind of fill it in and just make it look a little bit less kind of empty. So maybe just some little bushes in here, and we're going to have to remove all of these objects that aren't the trees, but maybe some bushes like this. We'll still randomize the spacing, but maybe not so much as we had in there before. But maybe we'll add a couple different kinds in there. So you have to be a little bit careful to get the same kinds of plants in here, or at least enough that it doesn't look weird that you've got one kind of plant and not another kind of plant in here. But we can maybe drop some plants in here. You know, the other thing you might think about doing, and I'm going to go ahead and drop some plants over here as well real quick. Make sure none of those are showing up on my line. Then you might also drop some rocks or something like that just to kind of break this up. So maybe something like that just to kind of increase the planting in here. So I think that puts us in pretty good shape. The other thing I might do is I might add like a car or something like that out here. Maybe like an SUV, one of these vehicles. Just something sitting out here. And that car is looking a little bit big based on what I'm seeing here. And that may have more to do with my model than the car. But we'll go ahead and cheat a little bit and we'll just, no, I don't want to mass place that. We're just going to put a single placement here. And in this case, we're just going to cheat a little bit and we're just going to scale that down. So maybe something like this. So you might put a car in here, maybe adjust the rotation a little bit. Something like that, just to add a little realism in here. The other thing you may want to consider is you may want to go back in SketchUp and add a road coming down here and maybe have it turn a corner or something so you don't just have a road that's just ending like this. So with LiveSync, that's really easy. I could just come in here and we'll just take this and we'll just pull our road out a little ways. Same thing over here. And then this road's 12 feet wide, so we'll just say, we'll draw a 12-foot line here to split this up, and then we'll just extend this out this way. So we're just going to take this, and we'll just extend our road down here. And we might take our fencing and extend that as well. We may just kind of extend the whole thing, just enough so that we can block this whole thing off. And we'll just take this material and apply it right here. Push-pull this little piece like this. Really what we're doing is we're just taking this and we're just creating something where you're not looking off into the distance with just a horizon showing up. So if you go back to Lumion, you can see how now you've got a fence down here where your road turns the corner, and this looks a lot more realistic. And so I feel like that puts us in pretty good shape. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to create a rendering with it. So I'm just going to take this view right here and we're just going to go into photo mode. So when I go into photo mode, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import a preset. And if you want, or a style. And so you can go in here and you can select a style like this realistic style. That's always a pretty good place to start, and then you can build on top of it. And almost always with this new version of Lumion, I come in here and add a real sky, just because you can see how those real skies really make a difference when it comes to the lighting in your model. They're really excellent HDRI files, and each one of them creates a different look and different lighting, but they really let you create some really awesome things in here. If you wanted to have more of a cloudy day, you could select more of a cloudy file or something like that. It's really kind of up to you. So like something overcast, you can see how you don't really get the shadows on something that's overcast. So that's really kind of up to you, what exactly you want to create with this. You could even create kind of an evening view and add some lights in here. We'll just go with this first one. The other thing I like to do, and you don't have to do this, is I like to go into the color correction and I like to turn the color temperature down a little bit. I feel like when you're up at like 3 or 4, this all just feels very yellow to me. And I like it with more of the blues, but that's going to be kind of a personal preference kind of thing. So once you've kind of created this and got it the way that you want it, and you can do a lot of trial and error in here. Like the first thing you do doesn't necessarily have to be right. That's the nice thing about Lumion, is how fast this is. But I'm just going to take this image and I'm just going to click the button for render photo. And I'm just going to render it to a desktop resolution. and I'm just going to save this, and we can just call this test image 1, or you can be more specific if you want to. We're going to go ahead and let this render, and you can see how just by bringing in this image or this model and replacing a couple textures and adding a couple models in here, you get this really realistic house rendering without having to do a whole lot of extra modeling work or anything like that. So that's where I'm going to end this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Did you like this? What would you have liked to have seen me cover a little bit more? I just love having that conversation with you guys. If you liked this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new rendering content every week. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.